Thank you, fellow Zionists, for joining Jewish National Fund USA's weekly briefing. I am Sal Lizebrand, president of Jewish National Fund USA. It is day 229 of the war in Israel. Our first guest speaker is Lieutenant Colonel Taran Atiyah, the force behind JNF USA affiliate Special in Uniform. Taran, we spoke with you a few months ago, and we thank you for joining us again to update us. And Taran, now over to you.
Shalom לכולם and ערב טוב, good evening. Today we are at the 229 days from the war started from the 7th of October. Before I talk about Special in Uniform, I want to brief you about what is going on in Israel these days. So in the south, there is, let's say, some kind of a sub-conflict war within the Rafah area, or the Philadelphia corridor, which is most of 70% out of the corridor, which is 11 kilometers, is being held by Israel, by the IDF. And why it is so important? Because there are more than, some say 50, some say 100 tunnels that go outside to Sinai Peninsula to Egypt. And as for us, this corridor is so important because one thing is the route of oxygen or air for the Hamas. And we are totally terrified from the idea that our hostages are being fleeted or brought to Egypt and then God knows where through those tunnels, since the Hamas has a strong hold also in the Sinai Peninsula area, and if God forbid, even some ships that will go to Iran with high-rank officers that were captured during the 7th of October. So all of those who think that the low intense conflict or war in Israel, in Gaza, the Gaza Strip, it is not. Know that the war is still on. There are 3 brigades that are working there, the 148, 143, 99, and 162, which is approximately 7,000 to 10,000 soldiers that are fighting the Hamas there, the terrorists there. And as for the north, it is much, much complicated because we as an Israeli citizens feel that we cannot live with the idea that we have some kind of a stronghold of the Hezbollah along the border of the Lebanon. And there are more than 40,000 evacuees from the Golan, from the Lebanese border, from those cities, that villages, moshavim, kibbutzim that are along the border. So having said that, the Gaza issue is taking more of the focus from the overall conflict. And so we are not seeing what is happening in the Lebanese area, which are those Hezbollah areas or Hezbollah cities. There is a huge devastation there out of Israeli attack, terrorists. And the Israeli army is targeting high-ranked officers there because their chain of command is the one who decides what is going on. As for the third circle, which is the Iranian, Iraqian Houthis in Yemen, there have been some kind of restraint now. And we have help from some kind of a coalition. And also it's another thing that is not being spoken on the news, but it is what it is. And the 14th of April, we saw this coalition assembling together and protecting the state of Israel. And I will send all of those who want to send me in the link to my email. I will send you the missiles that were launched from Iran, which are enormous. It's a 14 meters. It's like a building of 4 floors or fifth floors, filled with 500 half a ton of explosive. And at the 14th of April, they launched more than 300 of those, side with drones an explosive drones, and I don't know what happened, which miracle it was, the Air Force miracle, God's miracle, but nevertheless, there was no harm in Israel, no casualties in Israel, and we cannot be more thankful for all of those who helped protecting the state of Israel. So having said that, this is the third circle that we are living with, and also while we are speaking in the Judea and Samaria area, there is a war. There is a completely war in Jenin now, in Nablus, also in Hebron, which also this is not being in the media because Gaza is taking all the focus. And as for us, there are more or less 6,000 terrorists that were captured from the 7th of October. Most of them are from Gaza. And the numbers that you hear that the casualties from Gaza, from the UN, do not believe any word of those, because those are contradicting themselves day and night. They are talking about now instead of 35 or 40,000 casualties, now they are talking about 24. So they cannot be counted. Those numbers are just putting them in the air, because those who wants to hear that Israel is the evil part of it wants to hear those some kind of a bad news about the state of Israel. And we are obliged and committed to defend the state of Israel in all stages: the legal stage, the media stage, the social media stage, and with all those all of us, the Jews, because this is an existential issue for all of us. See what is happening. I came from Chicago, 150,000 people were rallying against the state of Israel, and I can tell you 95% of them, if you will point in the map where is Israel, they won't even start to know where it is. Some of them are paid, some of them are just want to get to fight with someone, some of them are just hating Israel, and 150 to get outside. Someone organized it very, very thoroughly. And as I said, we as a Jew cannot slander the state of Israel anymore. We as a Jew, even though sometimes Israel is not the perfect country, we have our faults. And when we are sitting at our salon and someone is smashing and bashing the state of Israel, we cannot join them. We cannot, because tomorrow morning they will use all those words that we are saying against the state of Israel or the government, and using those words against us. See what is happening in all the media. They are taking Israeli media riots that now are rioting against the government, and this encourage the Hamas and all of those who hate us to hate us some more, and they don't need a reason to hate us. And I want to end with Special in Uniform, in which this is my passion and love for the last 10 years. And Special in Uniform, for those whom a brief about Special in Uniform. Special in Uniform is a program that enable young adults with disability to become part of the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force. It is the only army in the world that has that kind of program. And you know, in Israel, at the age of 16, you are getting a letter from the government that says, prepare yourself, 2 years from now, you are going to be part of the Israeli army. And young adult with special need getting the same letter with a negative perspective that says, we have no place for you. So Israel is, the Special in Uniform is changing that paradigm and making sure that everyone belongs. We must make all and everything in our power to make them part of us, side by side with typical soldiers, side by side with everyone that is part of those who are an essential within the army. So having said that, just now recently, we celebrated the 1,000 soldier in the program a month ago, and you cannot even start to believe or start to imagine the joy that you saw on those faces of the parents when they got the certificate, when they got the beret, when they got every ceremony that we are doing for them. And the last and not least, We have some kids with the autistic that are high, brilliant kids, very, very smart. And I don't know if you know, several years ago, in 2018, a guy from Ashkelon, a Savan guy, autistic, hacked the Pentagon, and he put on the wallpaper of the Pentagon the picture of his dog and his mother. So later on, he was applying for the army, and they said you have a criminal case or criminal file in the police, and you cannot be inducted. So we took this guy and make this from this lemon we made a huge lemon, the sweetest lemonade ever, and now he is serving at the intelligence in Israel. And probably you know that just recently the helicopter of the Raisi, the president of Iran, and I know that this is not a computerized helicopter, but God knows, maybe there was a computer that guy controlled, but according to foreign reports, maybe it's him. So having said that, they are part of the integral and essential jobs that are being executed within the army. And later on, we are trying to find jobs for them within the army again, with the Israeli labor market, to make them mainstream in the Israeli society. And I want to end with something which is very inconvenient for me, but I'm begging for your understanding or asking for your understanding. Since the 7th of October, donation from donors of mine and new donors went to the resilience. And I know that it's no less important than the only thing that is important now is to make sure that those kibbutzim and all those areas that were damaged and demolished during the 7th of October will get all the support. But unfortunately, especially uniform is being affected by those lack of donations. And all of those who wants to still support Special in Uniform, I will be more than happy that you will consider side with the resilience supporting Special in Uniform. If there are any questions, I will be more than happy to answer. If not, I'm wishing you a great, amazing evening, and always, Am Israel Chai. And I want to end with one thing. Yesterday, we had an ending ceremony for 400 volunteers that came to the state of Israel to work, to sympathize with everything that we are doing. And as an Israeli citizen, I saw the spirit of love, and I cannot thank enough the JNF and all of those who organized those groups. Continue doing them. For us, it's another way of lifting our spirit to the air. Thank you so much. Toda rabba. Thank you, Saul. Thank you, Miriam. Thank you, everybody. And hope to see you very soon in Israel. Very, very soon.
Saul, we seem to
Saul,
have
you are
lost your
muted.
audio.
Okay, now we should be better. So first, Tehran, I just wanted to say, if those that are not familiar with Special in Uniform, just Google Special in Uniform, go to YouTube, look at what they do. And if you ever get a chance to go to a graduation ceremony at Special in Uniform, it's one of the most remarkable things that at least Lauren and I have participated that you'll ever see. Just bring a lot of Kleenex with you, because there's a lot of tears that go on. But it's a remarkable opportunity. And there's no question that Tehran and Special in Uniform is leading inclusion throughout the entire world. People are trying to copy what Tehran has done with Special in Uniform. And then the last thing that I'll say is that if I'm inviting everybody here to Tehran mother-in-law Shabbat dinner. His
Thank you,
mother-in-law
sir.
Shabbat dinner is not to be missed. So, Tehran, just tell your mother-in-law, there's only about 1,000 people that watch this between live and live stream. So just tell your mother-in-law to get ready, that we're all coming back for a Shabbat dinner at our house.
You are always, always welcome. You know that. Our door is always open. Our home and heart is always open. Thank you.
All right, Tehran, drive safely and thank you so much. And now we're pleased to have Parag Gulyash, a former diplomat to the EU, communications consultant and journalist. As a loud pro-Jewish voice, a Hungarian and a non-Jewish Zionist, she's created an ideology to change the stereotypes about Israel and the Jewish people one day at a time. Parag, director of JNF USA Global Speakers Bureau, and has spoken at many of our JNF USA events, including our global conference. Parag, thank you so much for joining us today, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Sol, and thank you for having me. And what Tiran said, I can just second that. What he's doing, and I had the first-hand experience to see him in action and his people in action when I was at the JNF volunteering mission in January in Israel. So I really, really suggest everyone to really join one of our volunteering missions as well. When I was asked to speak and I know that I have 15 minutes, I was like, what is something that I can add as an added value? I had so many colleagues and speakers behind me. Someone was, really focusing on IDF, focusing on Gaza, focusing on what's happening on the north. And then we had colleagues talking about the United Nations. So I really want to bring you something here today that I'm spending a lot of time on nowadays, and that is to showcase and prove to you that what we are seeing today is not a novelty and didn't happen overnight. The reason it's so important to understand, because if we understand the root cause of the encampments that we are seeing, for example, in the United States nowadays, or what the United Nations is doing, or what the ICC is doing, then we can tackle it much better. It's, the statement like you always know your enemy even more than your friends so that you can cope with the situation presented at hand. So I recently gave a lecture at the Denver University. So my audience was really the college age students from 20 to 24. And it was shocking the lack of knowledge that there was presented there. And what I mean by that, and with that, I'm going to start with the matrix, how I call. So imagine, and if I ever have the time, I will line up the flow chart, because you have a whole matrix behind of what you are seeing today. That matrix consists of the educational system, then you have the international organizations, and then you have the public opinion and social media. All these three goes hand in hand. And if you zoom out and you track back what happened in the educational system in the US for the last decade and plus, what happened in the United Nations since the 1970s, and what's happening on the social media, especially since 2010, then you actually have a common denominator. And that is a radicalization of the people, regardless of their age. What's happening in the educational system, and we're going to start with that, you have the DEI, you have the critical race theory, combined with the influx of millions of dollars from group of people, and we know it's Qatar, but also others who have a very different idea on how the world should work. And me as an immigrant to the United States from Eastern Europe, I myself have my own level of cultural shock within the American culture, even after 8 years. The level of freedom of speech that we experience here is not something that in Eastern Europe we have. And I'm still in a dilemma which one is better. For example, in the US, you can deny that the Holocaust happened. In my country, that counts as a felony. We each can decide which one is a better approach. But when it comes to education and the educational system, the whole curriculum was hijacked by people who do not think highly of Western values. This is what you are seeing on campuses. And this is how this new generation, the Generation Z and the millennials even, they were re-educated towards a narrative that speaks in binary sound bites. This is why the whole world is looked upon as the colonizer, the colonized, the rich, the poor, the white people, the people of color. The world is, made up of shades of grays and not this black and white. But this is what you are seeing. And couple that with something I don't feel we talk enough about. And that is the fact that this generation, especially in the United States, grew up with such a privilege. And I know that the word privilege is, flying very much as an intermediate like slogan in America, but the real privilege is to be an American who grew up in the last 2 decades without war. And this generation is seeking, psychologically, we are wired to seek a higher cause than our daily to-do list. And what happens is when a generation grows up with their biggest dilemma being what type of mobile phone I should buy the next month or where to go for a holiday in spring break, that causes this emptiness, and that void needs to be filled out. And this is why this generation is so easily gullible, because they saw a situation that, oh, there is this quote unquote oppressed people who are poor. So natural inclination is to side with them because that's what's right from a human perspective. As Tiran said, it's my experience as well that when you go and speak to them, they don't know which river and which sea is where on the map when they are screaming, free Palestine from the river to the sea. The knowledge is not there. The attention span of this generation, and that is a fact that they did a study on social media as well, is 3 seconds. Let me remind you that the golden fish has an attention span of 9 seconds. This generation has 3 seconds. So they are extremely gullible for the named reasons. Then they are also very aggressive and come across as entitled. And I'm using, words that are more PC, but if my Eastern European sense would come out, I would use harsher words, because it cannot be that when I lectured at the Columbia University a couple of years ago, my presentation had to be about how communism is not something to strive for. These kids literally believe that communism is something that will be good for America. These kids have zero idea what communism is. So if I could, I would just send them for a summer camp in any communist country to experience that firsthand. And the other reason why it's extremely important, because currently I reside in Denver in Colorado, and every and each anti-Israel movement or even the encampments are financed and founded by people who belong to Communists for Colorado, Communists for Boulder and Denver. So it's a full circle if you are checking actually, again, the dots. And this adds to the other reason that these college students are so gullible is, again, because what I mentioned, before, this binary thinking, the notion that every Jew is rich and every Jew is white is immediately putting the whole current war in a whole double standard and absolutely bad perspectives. These kids don't think deeper than what they see on the surface. I did go to Denver University and did talk with some of the people in the encampments. Irony is, again, without hurting anyone's feeling, is that 99% of them belong to the LGBT community. The reason that's important because they are representing a minority group, and the intersectionality mindset that, again, has been around in the narrative of college campuses for the last decade, that meaning all the people of color, all the LGBT community, every minority group have the same struggle, and hence the Palestinian people belong to this struggle. This is why they are thinking, again, in a way that Israel is the oppressor, the colonizer, and whatnot. The other big narrative on encampments, based on my talk with them, is that they are not only against Israel. Really not. Most of them are burning American flags as well. And that blows your mind. And this is where I say, regardless of your feeling towards Israel and towards Jews, and I know it's harsh, but I really need to get to the non-Jewish audience sometimes, and this is my way, because you can hate Israel if you want, but at least love yourself enough in the West, love yourself in America enough to know that if someone is burning your flag in America, they're coming after you as well. I'm not going to, repeat the cliches that we all know, that how a gay person in Gaza would be executed, and yet here they are holding the Free Palestine poster. Okay, again, idiots and silliness and uneducation and aggressiveness, and at the end of the day, maybe also a heavy Jew hatred. We can't change stupid, but what we can do is really emphasize this, that what we are seeing is not only against Israel, is against the West. And I spent a big chunk of my year in America on F1 visa, student visa. If anyone knows how incredibly hard to be legal in your country, then you know the struggle. On my F1 visa, I couldn't even sneeze without anyone's approval. So now seeing that kids on college campuses on F1 visa are burning your flag and literally echoing a terrorist organization's motto and mission, that blows my mind. And if you don't have consequences of this, what you're doing again is you are eliminating the checks and balances of a system, of a democracy, of a Western liberal democracy. Checks and balances are there for a reason. And I know that I have a limited time, so I want to go to the next step of the matrix, which is the international organizations. Most people don't know something very important. The United Nations, up until today, didn't come up with a definition of terrorism. Imagine you have all these different nations under one umbrella, and they don't have an agreement of what is terrorism. The United Nations mission statement is to strive for peace in the world and not to allow a third world war. Anybody who is a lawyer knows that in order to achieve something, we need a benchmark here as a definition. We don't have that. This is why we are where we are, because peace means something very different to Iran and Qatar and Venezuela, and peace means something very different to the Hungarian people and to Americans. And the United Nations is going through a major radicalizations from the 1970s, when the big chunk of majority, like Muslim cultures and Muslim countries, joined the United Nations. That is, again, a fact, and I'm more than happy to share with anyone one of the papers that I wrote while I was doing my studies in Jewish studies. I did an MA at Touro College, Touro University now, in Manhattan. And that really points out to you how the United Nations, with the accredited NGOs, are literally having this agenda of delegitimizing Israel and using lawfare against Israel. If you go into the UN, you see 2 accredited NGOs that are there to uphold Israel's rights to exist. And you have like 190 which are against Israel. And always follow the money. So if you track back, those nonprofits that are against Israel are primarily funded by 3 foundations. The Open Society, which is led by George Soros, sorry to break the news. Then you have the Ford Foundation and the Rockefeller Foundation. These 3 are the common denominators behind most of the NGOs going against Israel. Another funny, entertaining little anecdote is that if you read the ICC reports on, how we need to arrest Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu, and they also mentioned some Hamas leaders, at least they got to that point. But if you read the whole report, you are again going to see how it is used against Israel. The fact that the ICC could come out with such a report is beyond me, and I think beyond everyone. But the ICC accepts Palestine as a state, as a sovereign state. So we should ask the question, if Palestine is a sovereign state, why is UNRWA still in existence, which is handling the Palestinian refugees? If there is a Palestinian state, we cannot have the refugees, and hence we don't need UNRWA. And with that, we arrive to UNRWA, which is a major problem. And once again, because my time is limited, I'm offering you to reach out to me. I'm happy to send you documentations of the textbooks that UNRWA has been publishing. 3-4 years ago, I was in Washington actually protesting against UNRWA. And even the head of UNRWA, Lazarus, said that there are problematic elements in textbooks. The problematic elements, let me give you an example, is counting dead Jews as part of a mathematical equation. Yeah, problematic. So when people say, and again, I'm jumping back to the encampments, one of the fellow there told me how disgusting, that's the word he used, how Israel is handling all the people, all the civilian Palestinians. And it's not everyone, and Israel is trying to wipe out Gaza. Number one answer you can give, obviously, if Israel wanted to wipe out Gaza, they would have already done. Number two, yes, not every Palestinian is part of Hamas, but the majority of the Palestinians went through a level of indoctrination that leads them to the hatred of Israel and Israelis and Jews. And it's no surprise why. If a 5-year-old starts counting, dead Jews as part of their education, that is child abuse. And it blows my mind how people who are quote unquote Palestinian or pro-Palestinian activists, how they don't see the big picture. You want good life for the Palestinians? You're fighting the wrong enemy if you are trashing and bashing Israel. Your enemy is Hamas, which is a designated terrorist organization. So I don't even understand how we can talk about cheering for Hamas. And, just this morning came out the news that Spain, Ireland, and Norway accepted Palestine as a state. Congratulations again. What did you do with that? You literally give a present for October 7th. What is that if it's not the perversion of the whole international system? We need to reiterate every day that Hamas is a designated terrorist organization, both by the United States, by the European Union, by Canada, by Israel, Australia. And yet we are talking about them as peace partners to deal with. And with that, I want to get to the last point before I wrap up, and that's the public opinion. And what we see today, and this is how I started, is not a novelty. It was in the making. We normalized such level of Jew hatred online that what we are seeing today is a clear manifestation of it offline. Just think, everything goes down to psychology. People online can say things that 10 years ago we would never say face-to-face to each other because we had boundaries. Today, there are no boundaries. Within the high, and I'm gonna use the F word, you fucking Zionist cunts, this is how I'm called day after day on social media, there is nothing in between. People forgot the ability to have dialogues. People also forgot the basic human notion that we don't need to agree on everything. But I want to show you one provocative video with the approval of the team here. I'm going to show you only one that shows you what has been going on social media without consequences. It's really important for everyone to understand what we are facing with.
Let me see it. Well, I really need it. Oh, maybe let me see it. Just 180.
So this is just one video. The other one I'm not going to show because it uses words that we don't want to hear. But again, I'm happy to share it with you. This video is 3 years old. The other video is something that happened in London, again, 3 years ago. The problem with this is that these two girls were not expelled from their colleges. This video is still on TikTok. Nothing had consequences. When I speak at college campuses, I often ask people to substitute Jews for the people who belong to, the African American community, so the Black community. If anyone would do that against them, there would be major consequences. If anyone would do a video like this against the members of the LGBT community, there would have been consequences. But somehow Jew hatred is normalized and business as usual. So yes, nothing is a novelty today, but what October 7th sadly led us to is that people are getting more and more educated. So people are more aware of what's going on, and that the latitude of the issue, both on campuses and on social media and the international platforms, are deeper and bigger than what we actually thought. But I want to end on a positive note. I full-heartedly and confidently believe that there is a very aggressive minority that is oppressing and bullying a passive majority. I really believe that most people are aware of how Israel is fighting the fight for all of us, for everyone. We are just bullied, like in kindergarten and in high school and in college. You know, the cool kids club always join together, and they are the ones who can bully the people who are more passive and they just want to study and want to do their job. And this is what we are seeing also today. So I want to really close on that end, so to give everyone the positive note. But I sadly, you know, today we need to be more and more informed. If you ever want to go out and talk to people in the encampments, reach out to me. I have some great pointers how to navigate those discussions, because emotions are high. And trust me, I'm not always at the best of myself, but the calmer you are, the more upset they are getting. Again, it's a psychological game. And there are so many things that they are saying that proves to you that they are literally against everything that our ancestors and our grandfathers have fought for. And that for that matter, for me, this is going beyond the Israel-Gaza war. It is literally a war against our future and my kids' future. So I really hope that, you know, everyone is taking their own part in this fight. And I'm here for Israel. I'm here for the Jewish people. And I really thank you for the opportunity for share these thoughts with you. I hope that I could give you some bullet points, added value at least. And I'm always available for anyone who wants to know more in a specific topic. Thank you so much, Sol, and everyone.
No, Veron, first of all, thank you so much for every time you inspire us. You also bring reality to us. But, you know, I want everybody to know, since you head up the JNF Global Speakers Bureau, people can reach out, the communities can reach out through our Speakers Bureau and bring Virag to your community. The only thing that we can't do is some way clone Virag so that we have a Virag on every campus across America. But since we can't do that, bring her to your community. Reach out to the JNF Global Speakers Bureau. It was posted in the chat. Yeah, I think you can even just Google JNF Global Speakers Bureau. So thanks, Virag, again for being with us, and I'm sure we'll see you in Dallas. So with that, as many of you know, on October 8th, Jewish National Fund USA realized that in addition to the responsibility we have to do all we can for the people living in the Israel envelope and North Israel, we also have a responsibility to keep our partners, you know, that's what we call our donors, informed of what's happening on the ground. So we originally launched our live daily briefings, which has become weekly briefings, featuring people in Israel speaking about all aspects of the new reality we find ourselves in. To date, we've broadcasted over 150 episodes that go live on Zoom at noon Eastern on Wednesdays, and it is live streamed on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, as well as on Izzy TV in a series called Focus on Israel. We've had thousands of views. More than 7 months later, we want to shift the perspective away from a post-October 7th world and showcase the beauty of Zionism. We need to inspire people and move away from despair. JNF USA wants to show that Zionism comes in all colors, shapes, and sizes. Zionism is inclusive, diverse, beautiful, and respectful. That, in fact, Zionism is a unifier, not a divider. Therefore, our goal with these briefings will shift a bit, with a focus to add pride in Zionism and avoid the negativity that has taken over the narrative. We need to make people, you, feel good and confident about who we are and share tools to be proactive, not reactive. We hope you will continue to join us on Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern and share these briefings with your network of friends and family. As always, to learn more on the impact you're having on the ground, visit jnf.org/support Israel. We encourage you to travel to Israel with us on a volunteer working mission. We continue to sell out these missions and have added dates through December this year. Visit jnf.org/volunteeRIL to learn more and register. Don't forget, if you want to be part of the largest gathering of enthusiastic Zionists, join us for our global conference for Israel, taking place this year in Dallas, Texas, from November 14 to 17. Over 1,000 people have already registered. Michael Rappaport will be there, Rabbi David Wolpe, Professor Shai Davidai, and many more. You'll come away feeling inspired. Register now at jnf.org/global. We'll see you next Wednesday, May 29th at the same time. I'm Israel Chai.